today, so I just really didn't know how to get up here. Just kind of like move and slide up the steps. It's just weird, isn't it? I don't know. We've gone this entire year in a bumper every single sermon, and they're coming next week and following, but not today. Nothing today. No, just Ray. Just not even like anything to build. Just junior church dismissed. But guys, look, it's still good. Can you guys believe that it's almost 2020? I mean, for real, this year has flown by. I've said that repeatedly. It just feels like we got here last week, right? It feels like it's January all over again, beginning of January when we got here. That's what it feels like already. This year has flown by, and if you've been here, we've been looking at the red letter words of Jesus the entire year. We took 2019 and we looked at the words of Jesus, obviously living in the red, not just hearing His word or reading it, but living it out loud. And that's what we're going to be doing next year, but living His word. And as you can tell, yes, live out loud, our theme for next year already. Guys, we're going to be in Hebrews chapter 11 today. If you go ahead and turn there, we'll start in just a moment. While you're turning there, let me just say, it's pretty clear. I want to talk to you guys today about faith. Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith it's impossible to please God. And so that kind of begs the question then, what is faith? What does it look like? What does it mean? And I think we can all probably define it differently. I think I can define it in one way. I think somebody who walks the tightrope can say faith is stepping out onto the wire, right? I think, again, we could probably go through and each of us have some sort of definition of what faith is in our own mind, our own understanding, and by our own definition. But honestly, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what I say it is, and with all due respect, it doesn't matter what you say it is. It really matters what God says it is. What faith is, biblical faith, true biblical faith, what that looks like, and what that's all about. So I want to take a look at that today. And Hebrews chapter 11, I didn't put a certain text on there because we're going to kind of go through, the entire chapter. But not verse by verse through all of it because we don't have that long. And there's so much in there, we could probably make 3 or 4 messages from it. But Hebrews 11, let's start with verse 1. If you guys are ready. Verse 1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. And I love that version, but I want to share with you now the Message version, which is a paraphrase. All right, because it kind of speaks our language a little bit, okay? It says this: the fundamental fact of existence is that this trust in God, this faith, is the firm foundation under everything that makes life worth living. I love this next phrase. It's our handle on what we can't see. I love that because we talk like that, right? Dude, get a grip, right? We say those kinds of things. Man, you need to get a handle on your kids. I think we've said that to more than one parent, especially if you go to the grocery store or something. We say it though, right? I need to get a handle on my health. I need to get a handle on my finances or my marriage. I really need to get a handle on my marriage. So we say that, we talk about that, and I love that the paraphrase says we need to it's about getting a handle on what we don't see. And in fact, 2 words there, confidence and assurance. We know what those words are, but that word assurance is actually translated, the Greek word is actually translated as proof, and is translated there only as proof, which sounds great, but it also might sound a little bit confusing. For example, it would read like this. This isn't on the screen for you. It would say this: faith is proof of what we do not see. Which may sound a little bit confusing because don't we usually try to prove faith, right? Isn't that something we try to prove? We say that we have faith in this, or faith in this, or faith that God is doing something, or leading, or speaking, or something, however you fill in the blanks. But we try to prove it, don't we? But yet, in the simplest sense, we can't really necessarily prove it because faith isn't necessarily about that. Let me share what I mean. In Hebrews verse 3, and we'll go back to verse 2 in a minute. Hebrews 3 says this, 11:3. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made, was not made out of what was visible. What he's saying is that God made everything out of nothing. There was nothing that God just created, and there was nothing and He created, and everything we have is from nothing. How do we know that? Again, this is where we try to get our proof, right? Who was there? Anybody? You weren't there, right? Nobody was there during that time of creation. Nobody was there when God did all that. I wasn't there. I know you weren't. I know my kids would say that I was because I'm old, right? If your kids probably said the same thing. But we weren't there. We don't know anybody that was there. I have some friends that are really old, but nobody was there. We don't have that witness. Like, we didn't see it. We don't have any friends or family or relatives of any sort. We don't have anybody that saw it as an eyewitness for us as well. So how do we know? How do we know that it really happened, that God created everything out of nothing? Well, we know by faith. It's our faith. And listen, let me back up to verse 2. Because verse 2 says this. Talking about faith, of course, it says, this is what the ancients were commended for. It was something that set them above the crowd. Faith was something that set them apart from everyone else. You see, a true faith, true biblical faith, and the reason why I'm going on this is because, guys, we can all talk about faith. And we can all say, well, I have faith and I believe, and in a moment here I'm going to really throw a question out at you for all of you, but guys, listen, faith, true biblical faith, it does set us above the crowds. It changes everything about us. It changes our value system. It changes our BS, our belief system. Right? It changes everything, the way we think, the way we act. It actually leads in everything we do, why we live in the first place. Right? It's all about faith. But let me try to explain it this way. As a church, as an organization, we are a faith-based organization. Do y'all agree?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Faith-based. Right? That means everything we do should be based on faith. In theory, right? That's what you would think. But we don't. And some of you are probably thinking, what? What's he talking about? But for real, we don't throw ourselves down on our knees and pray when we order coffee or paper for the copier or toner. Okay? There are some things as a faith-based organization, yes, we put a lot of faith, I believe, I hope, in our budgeting. For the year and for the next year. I believe that is a major area where we should be putting faith, because that really is defining, building people. It kind of defines many things. I hate to say that's money, because it's not. It's bigger than that. But we do put faith into the majority of the things that we do. But it's not everything. There are other businesses, organizations, that are out there that function exactly the same way. Right? They're ordering paper and toner and coffee and creamers, and they're not doing it out of faith. They're just doing it because they do it. Right? Let me bring it home more. Maybe this will help. I think all of us in here, if I asked how many of you believe you are a person of faith, I believe everybody would raise their hand. Every single one of you would say, "Yeah, I'm a person of faith." Absolutely, 100%. So knowing that, here's my question. Don't answer it out loud, but chew on this. Really give this some thought. Really dig with this one, okay? Here's the question. Being a person of faith, when was the last time you made a decision based on true biblical faith? I mean, a decision that didn't make any sense at all to the world around you. I'll give you a couple examples of my own. Back in the day, again, because I'm old. Back in the day, I was driving for UPS. What can UPS do for you? What can Brown do for you? Make you stressed out, that's for sure. I had a full head of hair when I started driving those trucks. Okay, that's not true. I shaved it anyways. I was making good money. I enjoyed what I was doing. It was very physical. It was very fast-paced. You jump in that brown package car and you zip around town and you got your little board here and you know what's going where, and you go back and you grab the package and you bring it in. You say, "Hey, good morning," and when they sign and you make small talk and you write it all out and you type it all in while you're talking. You're like multitasking to like the 12th degree, right? And then you whip back out to the truck and you jump in there. You got 8 seconds from the time your foot hits that step to the time you are buckled and that truck is on. That is, and they watch you. Don't think that they don't. They follow and they sit around and they time and they do all those things. I loved it. Super fast pace. I was kind of my own boss, really. Nobody looking over my shoulder. Just go and get the job done. Loved it. Good money as well. It was like around $70,000 a year. Paid pretty decent. And the benefits, man. You guys are gonna be mad. Because I have Obamacare. Sorry, Obama, I just gotta look at the camera. It stinks. It's bad. It is. I paid $18 a month for family coverage, for health, dental, vision, chiropractic care, zero co-pays, prescriptions. Man, you could afford to be sick. It was nice. You know? Man, chiropractic visit. My wife had massages because she had a surgery on her shoulder. They did massages on her, totally covered. I'm like, oh, what's up with that? My trap, if you didn't notice, my trap is killing me today. I couldn't go get that done. No, I have to pay out of my pocket today for my Obamacare. Thank you, Obama. Things were really good, right? And I come home one day and say, hey, Shannon, I've prayed a lot, and I've decided I want to quit UPS, and I want to go to Bible college, full time. Now, needless to say, she was a little shocked. Just a quick timeout, just quick marriage 101. Ladies, men's number one need, don't read the his needs, her needs, because they get it wrong. Well, you can read it, but they get the number one wrong. Number one, respect. Number one for men. Number one for women, security. I was messing with her security gland. It was spasming big time. She was having a little bit of a stressful meltdown hearing me say, give up. Right? You guys ever see the movie The Jerk? It was like, I don't care about this and that. That's the stuff. Okay, it was almost like that. We had a comfortable lifestyle. Raising the kids, we knew where we were comfortable. I was preaching. Again, it was incredibly part-time, literally on Sundays only, driving an hour through the mountains in the snow, both ways, and that's not even an exaggeration. Sometimes they shut the mountain down. You couldn't get to church, you couldn't go anywhere. So you know, things were good-ish, and then I just dropped the bomb. Now, it made sense to us, but it made no sense to others. I had family members say, well, you're just stupid. Doesn't make any sense. Well, you don't. Like, for real, you've got security. You're putting money in the bank. You got kids. You got to think about health insurance. Man, it's not cheap in this world. It's not good. And I thought, yeah, whatever. Now I know better. It's really not. But man, it didn't make sense. The world around me was saying it's just dumb. It's an unwise decision. I'll give you one more example. We moved to go guest preach at a certain church a long time ago. And we both flew, my wife and I both flew there on a plane. Sorry. Boy, my arms were tired. Anyways, we flew there, and I bought round trip for Shannon, there and back, the next day. I bought a one-way. And Shannon kept saying too, well, they're doing the vote right after the sermon. What if they say no? And I said, well, I'll just hang out with one of the elders, I guess, for a few days until I can get a flight back and I'll come and see you. But I felt confident that was where God wanted us to be, at least for that season in our life, and it was. And I bought a one-way. Again, I have family and friends. Man, that's stupid. That's stupid. Fly, go both ways, fly back, because then it really stuck my wife with everything, because she flew back, got off the airplane, got in the car, got picked up, drove straight to our house where the movers were already there. The moving truck was there, right? They're standing around going, you want those boxes to go? What about that? You know, they're just kind of grabbing stuff. Our kids are saying, I don't know. So Shannon walks in the door, starts working immediately, and then like 14 hours later, the truck is loaded, they're driving away, she's cleaning up the house, jumps in the truck with the kids and the dog and the cat, and take off, and they start driving. The Uber goes that way, and she went this way. And it was a nightmare ride, wasn't it, Savannah? But I was already there, so I didn't have to travel across country or anything. People still, are you crazy? That was really foolish. You should have bought your ticket, round trip, be safe, and do. No, I didn't do it. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. So just a few examples from me to you. So come back to the question then again. What decision have you made that is literally, truly based on biblical faith, that makes no sense to anyone else in the world? Because that's what we're looking for. That's what we need as we are looking ahead, because that's the sermon title today, looking ahead to next year. That's where we're going. That's what it's all about. It's this faith that helps us to look ahead, to move ahead. It's this faith that changes everything. That literally changes everything. So, if you go through Hebrews, verse 4, all the way down to like verse 31 somewhere in there, the writer, which I believe is Paul, but anyways, the writer is talking about these great people of faith. Because he's bouncing back from verse 2. The ancients were known for these things. And then he goes into verse 3 and says, hey, God created everything out of nothing. By faith, we know this. And then verse 4 just starts on with, hey, by faith, so-and-so did. And by faith, so-and-so did. And by faith, so-and-so did. He kind of goes on with these men and women of great faith all the way through. And then we get down to verse 32. And it's still good, but we start to notice a slight change in a few verses. Let's read together. So starting in verse 32, he says, what more shall I say? He's already said a bunch. He's already given multiple examples of these believers. And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, and Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, cool. Who quenched the fury of the flames, escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, who became powerful in battle, routed foreign armies. There we go again. I'm all about the shutting the mouths of the lions and routing the foreign armies, right? That's what I think of when I think of faith, right? It goes on, verse 35, women received back their dead, raised to life again. I mean, this is great stuff, guys, but now there's that little bit of a shift, because it says, there were others. Cool. There were others. Oh, wait, who were tortured, refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, even chains and imprisonment. I kind of want to go back to the shutting the mouths of the lions and routing the foreign armies. When I think of faith, that's what I'm thinking of. Isn't that what you think of? Great things that are done through faith and by faith. Not prison and torture and beatings and pain. Verse 37. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, and mistreated. Verse 38. The world was not worthy of them. These people who were out there living out loud, right, living their faith. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and holes in the ground. Guys, they were running for their lives. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. His faith is this confidence. It's this assurance. It's getting a grip, getting a handle on what we don't see. You see, we're looking forward. That's what we're talking about today. And when you look forward, you have to look back. And when you look back, it helps you to look forward. In fact, Hebrews tells us that everything that was written in the past was written to teach us. And so as we look forward, the theme for next year, and it's on the screen, live out loud. Here's the idea with it. We're going to go through the book of Acts. We're going to take an entire year to go through the book of Acts, looking at the first church, this early church, these first believers who came into church and what this is all about and how do we do it. And they did some miraculous things. And what I mean is they really just lived their faith. They lived very boldly. They lived it out loud. That's what we need to do. I remember two things that really stick out, and I've heard you guys mention it. In fact, somebody even mentioned it to me this morning, which I think is super cool. Two things really jump out from 2019 that we walked away with. You guys remember this one? Chutzpah. Yeah, so you gotta laugh. You gotta now use like chutzpah. You really gotta get it. Say it once, you love it. Chutzpah. Yeah, give me another chutzpah. Chutzpah. Yeah, it's good stuff. It means boldness. It means fearlessness. That's what it needs. That's what we're going to need as we move into 2020. As we walk into this, as we are living in the red, moving to living out loud, it's going to take chutzpah. It's going to take this bold, fearless faith to get us going, okay? And what I'm going to do, I have these. I don't know what to call them, because if I say they're bracelets, guys are like, oh, I'm good. I don't want one. If I say a rubber band, which it kind of is, it's kind of funny, but I think it's actually silicone. Anyways. Tomato, right? I have these, anyways. I have 100, actually I have 300 of these, so I have plenty to go around. It just simply says, live out loud. It says it on the band, whatever you want to call it. I have one, you just can't see it, it's covered by my shirt. I had them a couple weeks ago, I've been wearing them, a couple have them as well. I have one for every single one of you, and then some. I want to encourage you, I'm not going to force you, but on the way out today, I want to encourage you to take one. I want to encourage you to wear it, even if it's just not your thing or not your style. It's okay, just wear it, because it'll give two things at least. One, it's a constant visual reminder for you, why do I have this silly thing on my arm? Oh, that's right, yes, I need to live out loud. I need to be bold and fearless in my faith, and I want to make sure that I have this constant reminder, because guys, we sometimes forget, don't we? Kind of remember like Linus last week, we talked about Linus on Sunday, or Christmas Eve. You know, he had that moment of that boldness and faith. He dropped the blanket, right? Fear not. And he drops the blanket, and he's talking about how the birth of Jesus separates us from our fears. And it's this epic monologue that he goes through, reciting Luke chapter 2. And then when he's done, he picks up the blanket and walks away. And you're like, what's up with that? We did the same thing. And we have those moments, but this is that reminder. We need to live out loud, and we need to be bold. Plus, also, others can say, hey, what's going on with your bracelet, Ken? And you'd be like, hey, it's not a bracelet, dude. It's a rubber band. Right? Because Marty probably the same thing. Dude, it's rubber, get it right, man. It's a manlet. I don't know what you call it. It's terrible. It's probably even worse. Don't put that on Facebook. I have no idea what that is. That might be something really bad. Too late. Thanks, Bill. But it's that thing too that as well as people look at it and say, hey, what is that? And you can say, oh, this is what we're talking about in church for the entire year. Live out loud. It really means for us to, it's a reminder for us to be bold in our faith. It's a good starter. It's a good conversation starter. And it's good, even if you're not good at those conversations, it's all about being bold. It's time to start. Time to start getting out of that comfort zone and be a little bit bold. Step out, be fearless. It's going to take chutzpah. And then the second thing we remember, which somebody mentioned this morning, is God is God and we are not. What we say in the first person, right? God is God and I am not. And as you walk through fearlessly and boldly in your faith, remembering God is God and I am not, that should guide us in our steps as we move forward. So in closing then, you're probably asking the obvious question, what do you expect in Red? What do you expect then in 2020 for us? Oh, of course, faith. I mean, duh, we're talking about faith, so obviously that. But I don't know why. But the Lord has put this upon my heart, and I can't explain it, so don't ask me to try to. I've been trying to for a couple of weeks now. I can't figure it out. I really believe that 2020 is going to be a defining year for Goshen Christian Church. And I don't know, I don't know what that all means. I don't know what that entails. I really don't. We may have, as individuals and as a church, we may have a David and Goliath moment that comes up. And it might be something just as simple as that. I say simple. That's not really, is it? It might be that. I don't know. But I know it's on my heart, and I believe that in 2020, I think 2020 will define us as a church. We will step out with that chutzpah that we need. We will step out boldly and fearlessly in our faith, and we will bring in, right, we'll do whatever it takes, morally, biblically, and ethically, to bring in the lost, to bring in the other sheep, to get out into the community, to be a light in not just Goshen, but in Elkhart County. We're going to do those things through faith, living it out loud, or we're not. And that's what it comes down to. And I can tell you this. I was here for 10 days. You guys remember Bernie, everybody? Yeah, we remember. Bernie was great. We love having her. The hair and I could never translate everything she said, because that New Zealand accent, I just never knew what, I was like, I know she's trying to communicate. But I was here 10 days. I'm not even joking. I was here for 10 days, and I remember sitting down with Bernie, because I sit in that chair. I love that chair in the office. I sat there and I said, Bernie, I really am picking up, I mean very heavily am picking up on a spirit of fear throughout this congregation. And she said, in typical Bernie fashion, you're spot on, mate. Sound like Bernie? You're spot on, mate. And it is. It's there. It's not as strong as it was, but I can tell you that there's a spirit of fear that is here. And fear has kind of helped us to take a step forward and a step back and maybe a step to the side or maybe standing still. And fear is going to hinder. And some of you would even argue, and I'm okay with this, that there's a little bit of fear in faith. And again, for sake of time, I'm not going to argue that with you, because it can be just a little bit fearful to step out in faith sometimes. But a fear that restricts is not the fear that's going to lead us as we move forward. As we step into a new year. As we start looking at new service times. Don't goof that up. If you show up next week at 10:15, you'll be late for church. Only 15 minutes late, but you'll still be late. Service is 10 next week and 11:15. All right, Sunday school for both. We're doing some things. Small groups start in February. Small groups, yeah. Woo-hoo. In the home, in the house. I don't know how to say that, but anyways. Small groups, a lot of new stuff, a lot of new things coming in as we move into a new year. Hopefully a new you and a new faith, a new boldness in your faith. So what am I looking for? That's pretty simple. Faith. But that's what I'm looking for myself. It's for all of us. To be bold. To be fearless. Not just to take a step, but to take a step forward. And then another step. And do everything that we need to do as a church, as a people, to reach the lost. To reach the other sheep. To be a light in the community. To be the church. To be the bride that we are, guys. We can do it. It's going to take some chutzpah. It's going to take some boldness, some fearlessness, guys, to live out loud. Are you with me?
Yeah, amen.
All right, let's do this.
Amen.
All right, let's pray. Oh, Father, you are good. You are so good, Father.